The last time I felt deeply in love with myself, the last time I felt content physically, mentally, and creatively, was like experiencing a cosmic shift internally, where I broke out of a trance and I saw myself from the outside. The last time I fell in love with myself physically, I finally saw past the dark circles under my eyes. Everyone in my family has dark circles under our eyes, like purple half moons. I'd constantly have my classmates in school look at me with concern and ask me if I was tired or if I had smudged my eyeliner. I'd awkwardly repeat myself to them about how my dark circles were genetic and I felt just fine, thank you. But then each time I stood in the girls' bathroom, hands gripping the edge of a porcelain sink, I'd stare at my reflection in the mirror wondering why I constantly appeared sleep deprived and my friends did not. I remember buying concealer 2 shades too bright and rubbing them under my eyes to solve the problem, but I'd notice curious gazes in the middle of conversations with my friends when they tried to find a nice way to tell me that there were light patches of poorly blended makeup on my face. There was even a girl in my dance team who scoffed at me for wearing concealer when she caught me reapplying after class because I had sweated off, and told me I was too young to be wearing makeup as a freshman in high school. I fumbled in my explanation as to why I needed to cover up my dark circles, and she laughed at me and said, "What dark circles?" It made me question whether I was the only one who could see my flaws. Then one day, instead of pointing out the genetic dark circles under my eyes that made me look constantly exhausted, I looked at how my skin glows and how deeply brown my eyes are when the window light washes over me during golden hour. Instead of remembering my fear of looking scrawny and how I have an unhealthy obsession with ramen and fried chicken, or how I look weak because I don't work out enough, I think about how I used to hope for a flat belly so that I could wear crop tops. And now I have one and I don't even appreciate it. For every flaw I saw in myself, I replaced it with a feature. I didn't have to love every part of me, but I could at the very least accept them. The last time I fell in love with myself mentally, I was thinking about how I treated others and how I spoke to myself. Being the person that people call when they're in need because they think I am an emotionally safe person to confide in is something that I find a lot of value in. Of course, this is reciprocal because I also open up easily when I trust someone, but in order to help my friends through their tough times, I have to be in a good mental space. I'm not always in the best mindset, so when I can wake up and not point out all the ugliness about myself or descend into a pit of anxiety about things I can't control, I call that a win. I try to tell myself I'm proud of how far I've come instead of focusing on the things I haven't yet achieved. Sometimes all I can think about is how I'm not as far along financially as I'd like, or haven't hit the career goals I thought I'd hit by this year. And when I'm thinking of that, it can be hard to focus on the fact that I was on the front page of Pinterest last Halloween, or that the car commercial using my artistic storytelling I created with a production agency and starred in was listed as Best in Show for creative marketing in TikTok's year-end review, or the fact that I was flown out to New York City to be on a Times Square billboard. What some people don't know is that I used to be a beauty influencer coach when I first started doing content creation full-time, and I would always tell my clients to celebrate their wins no matter how big or small. Over time, I realized I suck at taking my own advice, so in the way I treat those around me, I loved my kindness and compassion. I actively have to remember to speak to myself in the same way. The last time I fell in love with myself creatively, I remember how I used to paint people to showcase a feature on their face that I found beautiful, like a nose or ear or the shape of their eyebrows. I would settle on painting my own face as an alternative canvas when I had too many ideas and not enough models. But then I would criticize how my face didn't match the designs I wanted to make. I remember my husband telling me that there are just certain designs that won't work with my face, and I was so angry that I nearly knocked over my camera and gave up on my photo shoot. I knew my taste level for avant-garde makeup art had outgrown what my hands could do. So for the first time ever, I put my camera away to relieve myself of the pressure to perform, and I painted with the tiniest brush I could find. I sat there for 4 hours, breathing through every tremor that went through my untrained muscles and fighting through a tired wrist that was creaking like a loose hinge. What I realized was playing the person behind and in front of the camera tended to stress me out so much that I couldn't focus on improving one skill at a time. So instead of photographing myself, I asked my husband to take over so that I could stay focused on just playing the role of the makeup artist and model. As I looked over all the raw files and made my selects on my favorite shots, I finally saw myself in my art as a subject instead of perceiving it as an artist. It was a subtle difference, but for the first time, I was genuinely impressed by my own work, which is hard to do when you are your own biggest critic. I've heard people often say, take a step back from the painting and you'll see the whole piece clear. So I made the effort, slowly but surely, to take a step back from my physical, mental, and creative reflection and learn to fall in love with myself over and over again.